Today we're going to talk about datasheet and survey protocol training for the Texas Colonial Waterbird Society annual surveys that are performed in May. When you're conducting your Waterbird Society counts, there's a lot of cool history to remember. These counts have been conducted since 1973. That means a whole lot of people have been involved, a whole lot of different observers. So because there's so much variety over time, we really want to keep things consistent. Consistency is going to make a great data set. If the people who do it after you do it the exact same way you have, then the numbers are just going to be more solid. Errors can't always be caught afterwards. Make sure you check and double check your data sheets. Once they get turned in, they get scanned and put into a pile, and we can't always go back and find data sheets, especially from the 80s and 90s, to correct things. Pay attention to lines. Oftentimes black skimmers might get recorded as the species above or below. Just go back through and double count before you turn in anything. When data sheets are complete, they make the process work to the most optimal levels. Fill everything out, forwards and backwards. This provides a good record for going forward and makes it easier for people that are trying to pull different kinds of information later. You, the volunteer, are in charge of data quality. If you turn in a good job, then that good data is going in and going into the data set for generations to come. Now, a lot of times I hear, whatever, I've kind of always done it this way. And we've, in the last couple of years, made a lot of advancement with the Waterbird Society surveys. We have upgraded it to a better format. We're able to pull data more effectively, and we're looking to put this information online so that more people can research and use it. Because we're getting better and better, we really want to work on standardizing our data protocols, and we want to get a really solid set of methods so that our data is better for analysis. Technology is going to be your friend. Don't be scared of it. There are advances in GPS units, there are online conversion tools. A lot of our older sites do not have good lat longs, so that when we go to plot these things out on a map, we don't know where they are. And again, generations come through. People that worked around in the 80s can't always be, or are not around today for us to question them about issues. Again, I keep harping on it. Past errors are hard to fix. We want to turn in the best information we can. Don't halfway do something and slap together a data sheet and turn it into your compiler. And again, because survey participants change over time, be sure you leave a good record of how you did the count. And we're all not going to be around forever, and we want those future biologists to do a job that is comparable to what we're doing now. Our 2016 surveys. The period for 2016 will be from May 17th to May 28th. It is okay if you need to alter this period, but you need to talk to your compiler first. With certain colonies that may start earlier in the year, it might be better for you to count a little before the survey window. A colony may have shown up later. You just need to talk to your compiler. For the upper coast, that's Donna Anderson. For the mid coast, that's Brent Ortego, and the lower coast is Bo Hardegree, and their contact information is at the end of this presentation. You need to verify with your compiler by May 10th if you can or cannot do a survey. Last year, some of the surveys didn't get done because folks weren't able to get out and do them. We don't want those colonies to be missed, and we don't want people double counting colonies. So you need to check in with your compiler and tell them exactly what you're able to do by May 10th. Let's talk about doing the actual colony counts. You need to do these from a boat or vantage point that really minimizes disturbance. The whole object of these counts is to record breeding success of these colonial water birds, and if we're causing disturbance and harm to the birds, then we don't need to be doing it. You need to do your best to recognize the signs of disturbance and stress in a colony. If you have questions about a method that might cause too much disturbance, talk to your compiler. Try to avoid really extreme conditions while surveying. Try to finish your surveys before 11 in the morning. When it's cooler in the morning, more birds are going to be more stable during that period of the day. You might get a better count of adults at that time. We really do not advise doing counts later in the day unless it just cannot be helped. Again, talk to your compiler if you're concerned about this. Do not remain in a colony for longer than 30 minutes. Again, we are trying to minimize disturbance. We want as little disturbance to the colony as possible. And you should consider adding additional observers if you don't think you can get that count done in that amount of time. Your compiler can help with getting you additional volunteers that are trained and know the survey methods. When you get to some of the very, very large number of nesting tern colonies, it's sometimes very hard to estimate in the field. And I know personally I have found that when I take a picture of a colony, especially when it contains royal terns, Caspian terns, and sandwich terns, I may go over those photos later and catch some Caspians that I couldn't see earlier, or get a better ratio of sandwich terns to royal terns. So digital photographs, they're cheap, they're easy to do. Take those photos when you're out in the field. Try to get up high a little bit so you get a good vantage point. It's a great way to double check your estimates on those big colonies. Let's go over the data sheet a little bit. Please, please, please fill out your data sheet as completely as possible. We're going to start at the top and work our way down. Your colony code and your colony name are very, very important. You need to fill both of those out on your sheet and always get your survey date on there. You have no idea how many bird islands we have in the data set. So if you write a common name down that maybe other people don't know, or that name's not in the data set, and you don't have a colony code on there, we might have to waste time hunting you down later to figure out exactly what bird island you're talking about. Make sure you've got the correct colony code, and if it is a sub-colony, make sure you indicate that as well. We've had some problems in the last few years with lat longs. These are the XY coordinates for a colony that go on a map. We always need to turn these in WGS 84 decimal degree format. If you have questions about how to set your GPS unit so that you can read these out, please let Audubon Texas or the compilers know, and we can totally talk you through this. Sometimes people turn in UTMs, it's a different number format, or they turn in degrees, minutes, seconds, and we have to go through and try to convert those, and that's just introducing chances for error. There are some really great websites available online, so if you're not able to change your GPS unit before you go out in the field, you can do that online, and I will have this website available at the end as well. Again, fill out your colony sheet as completely as possible. Let us know if it's active or inactive. An inactive colony still needs to go down in the data set. When we have blank spaces in the data set, especially in some of the historical records, we don't know if that's a 0, if there were no birds that year, or if somebody just didn't get out there and was able to count it. So when you do go check a colony and it's inactive, please, please fill out a data sheet. It will be empty. You won't go much farther than this right here. There will be no birds listed, but you will have that little X in the inactive spot. Also, be sure to record if it's a new colony, a previously known one, and if you are providing a count and description update, the backside of your data sheet has some habitat updates, and we are working now to get a better system to store those going forward. Always put down your observers and your start and end time in military format. And just real quick, always record if it's aerial survey, on-site, or adjacent area view. So when it comes to doing the actual colony counts, multiple observers are great to use because those folks can get together later and talk about the counts that they saw, and you can kind of average out or kind of reach a consensus on what was actually there. Somebody might catch some birds that somebody else didn't see, and that sort of thing. You want to count all adults present, and if you're going to apply one of the standardized conversion factors to estimate breeding pairs, you need to make sure beforehand if you're going to do that or some other method. The best method for estimating breeding pairs is taking that estimate when you're out in the field. If you can't or are not comfortable taking that estimate out in the field, talk to your compiler and we'll go over the conversion factors. If you need to use one of the conversion factors, you need to record it on the data sheet, and you'll enter 9 in the column for survey types for adults, along with the methods of counting them. It's also great to write the conversion factor that you use down the bottom. For instance, if you multiply a species by 0.9, write that in the comments down at the bottom, or if you did the 0.7 or whatever. If a colony to be surveyed consists of a group of islands, please don't create a total sheet. You need to turn in a total data sheet for each sub-island. When we get some of the very, very large sub-colony groups, you might have 20 islands in a chain, and when all that information is lumped into one data sheet, you really lose a lot of the intricacies of what's going on the ground. We need to record lat and longs for each island surveyed. This is really important if you're getting a new colony. Your compiler can provide you with information on how to get a Google Map image to us for our records. And we need to go through, especially on the sub-colonies, and make sure that you have a lat and long for each sub-colony. Some of these are missing in the database, and we need to get those complete. If it's possible, you need to take a photograph of each island surveyed and give it to your regional coordinator. And please fill out that backside of your data sheet with a site description when you see changes, or if you haven't filled it out in a couple of years. Let's talk about the critical data that needs to get on the sheet. I mean, it's all important, but this is what the data sheet is all about. If you look up at the top, you see number of active nests, number of adults, and estimated breeding pairs. When you get out there, some people prefer to count nests, especially when it comes to some of the ground nesting species in some areas. Some people prefer to count adults. You need to use either nest or adults. Just if you can do both, do both. When you are counting adults, you need to keep in mind that we're not counting adults that are just hanging around. We are counting breeding animals at that time. You are counting adults that are nesting if you see them tending chicks or if you observe them constructing nests. If an adult is loafing, foraging, or roosting and is not in the middle of the colony, not actively breeding, you record those birds in the comments section only. We always want to provide breeding pair information. This is the data that is given out to researchers when they ask for this data to use in their research. Your methods for calculating the breeding pairs, again, the best is to do a field estimation on site. If you are not comfortable doing that, or you can't do that, a conversion factor can be supplied to you by the Texas Colonial Waterbird Society. Your compiler has that information, and it is always sent out with the survey information each year. Dividing by half is not always accurate. Different species behave differently at the nest, so just cutting the number of adults in half is not really an accurate number to put down on your data sheet. And then you should always record how you determine your breeding pairs over in the survey type column. All right, get your information in as soon as possible. We have traditionally had some lags in everyone getting their data sheets in, and our compilers have to enter all that information by hand. So when you're late turning that in, our compilers are later in the season getting everything put together and ready to present in November at our Texas Colonial Waterbird Society meetings. You need to get your completed data sheets and your maps to your compiler by July 15th. Again, your regional coordinators are listed here and the areas that they concern. You can shoot them an email or give them a call for more information, and the website for the decimal degree conversion is listed as well. If you have any questions, we'll start those now.